snow?
No,
Oh, okay.
They've done a lot of things in 4 years,
Up,
5 years.
we're on. We're on.
Honda Odyssey minivan with a sunroof.
We're on, Cheech.
That's a direct order. Do it now.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Today is Thursday, March 27, 2024. We are Roll Call, Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. I'm here with a few of my friends. I got Dee with us. I got Derek. I got Melba. Melba's going to be with us for a short period of time, but she is going to get us started. I got Mark with us. I got Will with us. And I got the other Will. Name is Cheech. And I got AC, and I got Jim Kiernan with us. We want to start with our introduction and moment of silence. Gets me every time. I'm going to ask that Cheech will give us our disclaimer, and Melba will give us our statement of purpose.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, we wanted to go over a couple of things. First, we want to let you know that the comments made by members of Roll Call are the opinions of each individual. They're not intended to be any type of legal advice, recommendation, or suggestions. Remember that the laws change from city to city, state to state, so please check with a local attorney or your local police department for any legal advice. Also, once in a while, all the time, we display videos, but some of them may be graphic in nature or photographs. We use these to spark our conversations, so they're an integral part of the group. The videos are not the property of Roll Call. We get them from social media, so everyone out there has access to them. We get them from YouTube and TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, all that good stuff. If we display one that we deem is graphic in nature, one of our members will give you a heads up in case you don't want to watch it. Also, members here speak from the heart. We don't hold back. We speak our truth. It's very spontaneous. We don't intend to offend anybody. We don't take offense to it here ourselves. As you'll see, sometimes we don't agree on some things. But at the end of the day, we're all friends here and we're all family. So please don't take offense to anything that we say. And that's it. Melba?
Hey, good afternoon. Roll call, Black, White, and Blue for Better Relations. Y'all know we have 4 basic tenets, right? The first one that is that we are pro law enforcement. We believe in police, and we also are anti-racism. We believe in equitable policing, and most importantly, we do believe that Black Lives Matter. That's it.
Thank you, Cheech. Thank you, Melba. Welcome, Tyrone. Welcome, Jim. Okay, listen, we do have a few videos we want to try to run through today. Give us some time. We're gonna go with the first one is 4 former and current deputies take their own lives in the last 6 weeks. Is that the one we're doing,
Yep.
D?
Yeah, it's the first
Oh,
one.
wow. Please. All right, let's go there since we just came out of a
And family said goodbye to veteran Harris County Deputy Christina Caller. Her death last week was ruled a suicide. Caller is one of 4 current or former Harris County deputies who've taken their own lives in just the last 6 weeks. ABC 13's Jessica Willey is live tonight, and this is leading to important conversations about the need for support, Jessica.
Yeah, Eric, the department has a behavioral health division that has made great strides since it was established in 2020 and has led the way, its director says, among law enforcement agencies. But these recent deaths are raising serious concerns for the deputies organization. The question is, what more should they be doing?
It caught a lot of us by surprise.
Harris County Sheriff's Deputy Christina Caller left home last week and was never seen again. Houston police issuing this alert. The 37-year-old found on the 13th. She had taken her own life. 3 days later, Maria Vasquez, who left the department in December, died by apparent suicide. William Bozeman, also a former deputy, died earlier this week. Tragic news.
One is too many. 2, 3 it's definitely devastating.
That Jose Lopez is helping his friends and colleagues try to process.
It hits very close to home, and it's a reminder to us of how fragile life is. It's also a reminder that we do need to look out for each other. We do need to take care of each other.
Lopez is the president of the Harris County Deputies Organization, but he knew 2 of the late deputies personally.
I knew him for over 20 years.
In just 6 weeks' time, 4 current and former deputies have taken their own lives. Psychologist Thomas McNeese is the director of the department's Behavioral Health Division.
These last few weeks have been difficult for our staff and for the sheriff's office as a whole.
He says he and his division work to provide resources to both former and current employees who are struggling. They embed to help people feel more comfortable.
This profession, unfortunately, takes a toll on people, and over time, the longer they're in it, the more of a toll that it takes, and it changes people.
First responders historically have a high rate of suicide.
It's a combination of things like what they see on the job and then what the job entails.
While the department has been focused on mental health, often leading the way, Lopez says these last few weeks have raised questions.
We can't help to ask the question of, is that enough? Do we need to do something different? What else can we do?
And as they work to support those grieving, McNeese with this message to anyone who might be in crisis.
Reaching out, getting some help, doing something to be able to not stay stuck where you're at is really important.
Jessica Willey, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a lot going on. But Cheech, I'll let you get started, and then Jim, and then Dee.
Yeah, in this career, whether it's police, corrections, fire department also, you have to have thick skin by far. But it is, I opened up about this a while back, I know. So I'm not afraid to speak about it anymore. I went through some hard times. Until this day, I still go to therapy every other week. It's a way to open up. We have to look out for each other. It's hard to see death on a regular basis and then go home and act like nothing's happened. Like you can't go home and talk to your wife or your kids or anyone else about what you've seen or how your day went. It's not a normal job where you can do that, so you tend to keep it to yourself. I've seen a lot of guys that have turned, fortunately, to other methods of coping, which are not good. I was lucky I didn't. I was lucky that my partner and my boss saw a change in me and got me help. I didn't see it myself, so I'm grateful that they saw the signs. But I'm not afraid to speak about it now. Leave the tough person at home. Forget about that. You have to be macho and you can't show, because that's the stigma that we have, that we cannot show any type of weakness, but you have to remember that we're all human. We're not Superwoman or Superman. We are human. So don't be afraid to reach out. My department went through the same thing in like a year and a half. Besides EAP, nothing else was done. And that's Employers Assistance Program, where they have counselors. Not too many people will reach out to a counselor on their own, unfortunately. Anytime I get a chance, I will speak to them now, that not to be afraid. Don't forget about the stigma, reach out for help. There is help out there. We are human. Just watch out for one another. That's it.
Thank you, Cheech. Thank you. And we're praying for you. And you did share that with us a while ago. And there is no shame in getting help. There's a lot of strength in even asking for help. All right, so we appreciate that. We appreciate you sharing that with us and our audience. Jim?
Yeah, I did some research about this many years ago. And so some of these things are starting to pop back up in my head of what I found then. And Cheech said something that's very interesting that did come up in that research years ago. And that's when you become a police officer, you definitely, you lose your independent personality. You become something sometimes that is not natural to yourself. And what happens is, because of that, you become isolated in the social world. And that's even your family. Family and friends, all of a sudden, you're a cop. You're a different person. You're not the same person we knew. And that takes a toll. Now, you add that to all the other things, of course, that we see on the job that you try not to take home. And you add that isolation in, and it's a problem. It sometimes it raises its head in alcoholism, sometimes drug abuse, and unfortunately, sometimes suicide. But a lot of people don't realize that as officers, there's a lot of isolation as far as your social, what you used to have, and now what you have. Totally different people now.
All right, thank you for sharing that with us, Jim. D?
Yeah, two really quick points. The first one is, for those people that are not law enforcement officers, just a little understanding. Most people will have a life-changing situation once, maybe twice. The really bad ones 3 times in their lives. There was a study done on this. I wish I had my notes here. I could tell you exactly what it was. But most people, 1 or 2 catastrophic situations, major situations in their whole life. Law enforcement officers, you might get 8 a day. 8 life-changing, life maneuvering situations that you have to deal with. And you don't have to deal with the person that it happened to. You have to deal with everything that surrounds it. And a lot of times I wish Dave was here, and then solve it, figure it out, make everybody else feel better. It's a tremendous amount of pressure that law enforcement officers are put on, and they have to do this every day. Cheech mentioned EAP, and I just wanted to go because I was a part of that unit for almost, well, I gotta say now, almost 29 years. I know I look up because I'm retired, but it didn't end at retirement. The phone rings all the time. It just rings all the time. And being a part of that unit, it's important just to, let's get basic. You don't have to have a psychology degree. You don't have to be a doctor or a psychiatrist. You got to recognize the sign that somebody's in distress and then be able to get them help. That's what my unit was. Schoon would show up and let's go get a cup of coffee. I'm not going to fix you. I'm not going to hammer out, give you any drugs to make you feel better. None of that stuff. I'm going to have a few questions for you. We're going to talk a little bit. And if I think you're going to hurt yourself or hurt somebody else, I'm not leaving you. And if it's 2 days, 3 days, overnight, if I got to park out in your driveway, I'll be that pain in the butt. We got to start looking at the people that we saddle with helping everybody else. You got to understand at one point, everybody, I know Cheech shared his story. I could share mine. Everybody in the room got one. You're going to go through it. If you're dealing with this constantly, it's going to creep up on you. The idea is all of us gathering around and recognizing the signals, the signs that there's something. You don't have to know what. Again, don't get caught up in the diagnosis. I got to know something's wrong with Ty. I got to know, and I'm going to stay with Ty, and I'm going to grab Ursula, and I'm going to grab his baby, and I'm going to say, hey, look, you call me. If you see A, B, or C, you call me. Meanwhile, I'm going to go get him some help. And then I'm going to go with him. And if I got to sit there with him and we got to sit there and get help, we're going to get help together. Both of us. Both of us would be on what do we used to call it? The crazy farm. Both of us would be in the crazy farm. And then we'll go have a cup of coffee and then we'll get you back to work. So I just wanted to give just a little information on, we're talking about law enforcement officers and everybody says, well, if he decided to do that, we all didn't know. I didn't know when I put my hand up and swore that I was going to deal with death and despair and destruction for 32 years. And then you want me to retire and then have a nice life. You know, and a lot of times, just for families, I know I'm going on a little long and I apologize, but just for families, that's why we get together. There's a certain conversation me and Mark have, or me and Derek gonna have, or me and Jim are gonna have. Y'all don't even understand the language we're talking. And that's how we are able to deal with each other and bring each other down and realize, oh, Ty going through something. Mine ain't that bad. Jim went through something. Cheech went through something. It's not that bad. And just give me a little light at the end of the tunnel so I can keep going. That's why we hang out together. That's why a lot of times I'm going to come by the house and grab Don and we just going to go. These guys was lifting weights the other day. They just going to go. That's how we dealt with it. And it stays with us. We tell stories all the time, right? We remember that time, Don in the room with the girl, somebody with a windshield. I won't say nothing, Ty. All of this stuff. Those are stories that change our lives, man. And we live with them every single day. And it's important that we can laugh about it. It wasn't funny then, was it? It wasn't funny then. But
it was funny.
Laugh about
it was funny. It was funny. Because Mark made sure it was funny.
It wasn't funny to me.
And it's the way we deal with it. We may laugh and joke, but it's our coping mechanism. That's all I wanted to say.
It's amazing you remember that story because Mark was like, I can't believe that you got this girl laying on your lap in a sofa. I mean, they pop loose like bubblegum that was stuck, and we just run up. And I fall over the coffee table. She lands in my lap. And I wasn't concerned about her at all. I'm looking at Mark. because I know he over there acting stupid. He over there laughing. He over there making faces. But listen, before we go any further, let me slip Melba in here real quick. Because I don't know what time she got to take off. So let me go with Melba, Ty, Derek, and Will.
Yeah, I have about 8 minutes, and I just wanted to slide in to say when we started this show, one of the very first things that I've always said when we started is that that I think the job needs to incorporate mental health and prioritize it for those of us that work in these roles, be it law enforcement, I would say even firefighters, people who are in first responder roles. They need to prioritize and have it somehow incorporated that we do mental health checks. I don't think there is one of us on this panel, and maybe I'm overstepping, but I think all of us at some point hit a season of disillusionment, right? Where the world changed for you based on the things that you were seeing, and it's not pretty. And we all have to work through all of those emotions. And some of us have better coping skills than others in different areas, depending on the things that we see. So, I was raised to believe that suicide was something that was very an abomination and very selfish. And as I've gotten older, and I would like to think wiser, my empathy level for that level of, or that amount of pain that someone has to be in to take their own life, to make it stop, has changed and made me a far more empathetic person based on the life experiences that I have gone through to this point, to see it from a different perspective. And that's all that I wanted to say.
All right. I just want to comment on what you just said too, Melba, because she said something that stuck out for me. He didn't recognize it. His friends recognized it. His co-workers recognized it. So I think there are times where we are in that state of mind, but we don't even recognize it.
Absolutely.
And we have to have good friends that know us, or co-workers that know us and can see that there is a difference. So I just wanted to point that out, because someone would say, well, I'm good. Well, ask your buddy over here, are you good? You know what I'm saying? Ask him or her, are you good? So I just want to throw that up in there. And let me go with
I think it's me next, right?
Ty, Derek, and Will.
I wanted to read the comments real quick.
Hold on for 1 second, Ty, and let Chief do the comments. Good.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Donald Coleman. First, everybody that's joining us, thank you for joining us. Donald Coleman said something's either wrong or something deep is going on in that department.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, with that many, that could also be the case, Don.
Mm-hmm.
Beverly Wells, who I worked under, she was great. I love you, Beverly. She says, when I was in human resource, I referred many employees to EAP who took their weapons away from them. That is true. Unfortunately, personally, I think some of us get scared that that's going to happen, that they're going to take your weapon away. Now I am going to be on desk duty. Now I'm not going to be able to work overtime. And if I'm not working overtime, I'm not making money to support my family. So a lot of things go into that, and I think that plays a role. Donald Coleman also says, Donald Coleman says, my good friend who I worked with for years left our job to become a Nassau County police officer. And our relationship changed from then on. His group of friends changed from him and I. And that is correct. And on a point that Dee made, my partner and my boss, when they did approach me, I found out that they had been going to therapy, and I had no idea.
Okay. Thank you so much for that, Cheech. Let me go with Ty.
Right. So can you guys hear me okay? I'm I'm on location.
We
I'm
know,
acting
we
I'm
know where
acting
you
like
are.
school.
We
I'm acting like
we
in
know where you
school.
are.
You know why? Okay, good. So by letting Cheech go ahead and read the comments, Dickie stole my thunder. So that's the first thing that flashed through my mind when that many people in the same department and sort of the same age category. I mean, it's not one person is 22 and one is 52. You know what I mean? It made me wonder if something going on in the department. It is so easy, like Cheech and Donald, you said, to arrive at there, not even realize you're there. But others can look at you and see the difference in the behavioral difference in. So it is incumbent upon us who can call ourselves friends to make sure that we're paying attention. I mean, I was on the golf course with a guy the other day, and I knew him about 4 or 5 years, and he was sitting at the tee box, his shots. He's sitting in the spot, his glazed overglazed look in his eyes. Looking like he had been drinking and all like that. So I went to the fairway and came back, and he finally started moving. And I asked him, "Are you okay?" He was like, "Yeah." I said, "Are you okay?" Said it again. He's like, "Thank you, Ty. I appreciate it." We talked for a little while. I said, let's talk right now. I said, "Get these golf shots. You know what I mean? We can play golf tomorrow, but let's figure out one day." And he said he really appreciated it. I recognize it. So it's important to understand that, guys. I cannot realize you love somebody, pay attention to them, man, because a lot of times we don't pay attention to ourselves. And it's easy to arrive at that decision. It's better to get to the point of the decision. And I wonder what's going on in that department, man. That's weird to have that many. That takes time. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, Ty. Thank you so much. Derek?
Yeah, I'm kind of going to go in a different direction than most of the panel here. I think one of the things is cops have ready access to a firearm. Now, most people, and there are many people in this country that have guns. There are many people that carry guns. Most people don't have their gun on them at all times, whereas a lot of police officers or police personnel do. And when you run into a tight spot, if that person has a weak moment, it is right there. They don't have to think about it. They don't have to go get it. They don't have to get it out of a safe. They pull it off their waist and they act. And I still see it as a selfish act. And maybe I'm wrong for seeing it that way, but obviously, Donald, Tyrone, we knew someone that did it. He used to be a good friend of mine at one time, and our friendship dwindled because his behavior was very, very reckless. Like reckless in his relationship with his wife. He was a reckless guy. And to me, I thought he was a little too reckless for me to be hanging out with. And obviously, later he committed suicide. But I don't think it's always pressures from the job. Like knowing him personally, we came on the job together in '83. He became a gym instructor in '84. And he was a gym instructor for many years. And then he was driving Mayor Dinkins' wife. So this guy didn't have like a career where he saw a whole lot of stuff. He saw people doing push-ups in the gym, and then he saw Dinkins' wife. You know what I mean? But I feel it's selfish because I know personally he left 3 small children on him. You know what I mean? And a wife and another lady that have to take care of them combined. So I do think it's selfish. And another thing that kind of leads me to believe that it's often not pressures of the job, though it may be job connected, is a couple of years ago, there was an inspector that retired from NYPD. And he retired, he put in his paperwork, and he drove 2 blocks, parked, and killed himself. And he said that he didn't know what he was going to do without the job. And that, there is so much more to life than being affiliated with a police department. And for some people, I guess they just don't get it. And for some people also, and this happens in many facets of life, copycat behavior. Like they see someone else do it and they figure, well, I can do it too. And maybe that's the case with this department that just had the 3 people that did it. I can't see what could happen in a police department that would drive me to want to end my life. And, you know, I don't know, maybe my self-esteem is higher than other people's. I don't know. But I don't care if I can't stand the chief. I don't care if he can't stand me. I'm not ending my life over it. But, you know, I kind of see it a little bit different. I think it's the accessibility that cops have to weapons, that when they hit a tight spot, it's right there for them. And before they can think or change their mind, they may act. And that's all I have.
Yeah, Derek, I just want to piggyback off you said, because you and I used to talk about this years ago, even before I even got into the church. And I think we both felt it was like really selfish to do that. Some people will say it's mental illness. I'm not gonna argue with that at all. I'm not gonna argue with that at all. But I heard a preacher preach a sermon. He said, we gotta stop giving excuses for bad behavior. In other words, he said there's a lot of people, we wanna make everybody that does something wrong mental illness and forget about demon possessed or evil possession, you know, things that's going on, that people just have an evil disposition or whatever. You know, the guy Derek and I are talking about, Derek knew him before I knew him. Good guy, but ego.
Yes.
Ego came into the picture. And when your ego is hurt and you're so used to being on top and the boss and in charge, now someone done bust your little bubble and you go another direction. I'm pretty much leaning with Derek on it. I think it's it's not always, because I don't believe in always for anything, but that's a weak person, and it's a selfish person, because there'd be no way that I would take my life to leave my wife and my kids by themselves to deal with life. There is just no way that could even happen. I had a situation years ago with one of my daughters, and one of my good friends was like, listen, you clergy, you can't do anything, but I can. And the person know that what I said to the person, I said, listen, ain't no way I can allow you to do that. You got a family yourself. Ain't no way, you know. So my point is that, you know, it's more than just you. And suicide is a serious issue. So please, anyone listen to it, don't even think that we're taking this thing lightly. It's a serious issue. I kept the suicide hotline on my church page for a while, because at one time, I think Derek said it, they had out in the Hamptons, they were copycat. The juveniles, they were making pacts to do suicides. You know, so a lot of young people were committing suicide. So it's still a serious problem, regardless of what the reason is. It's still a serious issue. We need to watch over each other and watch over our family and friends, was what I was saying earlier. Let me, I had to say that because I don't want anyone to think that we're really overlooking this thing, because we're really not. I mean, one suicide is too much for me. It's too much for me, because too many people are hurt because of one person. You know, too many people suffer. Children, families suffer because one person had enough and couldn't take anymore.
Yeah, it's life changing. It's life changing for the family. You know,
Derek, it's life changing when it's not suicide.
Right.
For instance, like with my son.
Right.
With my son passing away. Man, our whole family dynamic is different.
Sure.
And I'll say this: we've spoken about therapy, getting some help. I just haven't found someone that's been recommended that I'm comfortable with yet. But I'm not afraid of. I'm like Cheech. I will take it. I am very serious. I will sit under someone and listen, because they will see something that I don't see. Cheech said it. Cheech, when you said that, you hit it. You hit it. That someone else saw what you didn't see. That's the same thing that I'm saying myself. I don't know how healthy I am. I think I am. I think I'm grounded in my faith. I believe that I am. But listen, I'm not the professional. It's not something I've been trained at. It's not something that I know per se. So, I would welcome help seriously, and I know my family wouldn't mind the help as well. So I just had to put that out there. Will, you're next. Will, Mark, and Cheech.
As I'm listening to the comments and thinking about what happened, looking at the video, in most cases, particularly when I see something tragic like that or something happened, the first question, we're always familiar with the who, what, where, when. The first question for me is always why.
Why?
Because if you're going to move to solution in anything, if you don't start with trying to figure out the why, you are putting yourself at a disadvantage. Obviously, that information may never come back around to us. I'm going to try my best to keep up with this because there could be any number of things related to that. One of the things I'd like for our audience and maybe even us as officers or former officers to understand, the job has changed tremendously. There was a time where our only responsibility was to evaluate whether or not there was an enforcement action to take. That time has changed. The job now, when people pick up the phone and call us, they're expecting us to come there either with a solution or an idea for a solution. Any situation that you go into where a solution is needed or requires you to become invested in that scenario. And this is, I think, the part that a lot of people don't understand about law enforcement. Those calls are trauma for somebody, and their trauma becomes our trauma in order for us to try to help them to solution. And trauma doesn't go away. You get an injury to a finger, a knee, or whatever, you get whatever repair, you go through whatever rehab, and hopefully that injury subsides. Emotional and mental trauma, that sticks around. That doesn't go anywhere. And in our profession, if you think about it in the standpoint of a storage drive or whatnot, we're full of it. Because somebody was mentioning earlier, on any given shift, how many different traumatic experiences could you either see or hear about that because of the nature of your work, it's not going to go away. So that was the point that kind of jumped out at me, kind of separate and apart from the other points. Another thing, just for the community to know, obviously, we don't know how these individuals ended their lives. I think a lot of us, myself included, the first thing that comes to mind is, since them being law enforcement, that they used a firearm. We don't know if that was the case. So it may come out later on that it was something else, but at the end of the day, like we said, those are 4 lives that are gone from the same department inside of 6 weeks. I don't know about you all, but that's unprecedented to me. I've never heard that before. And as we sit here as a group, as an extension of the conversations that we have, this is a part of our family. This is a part of our network. This is how we hold one another accountable and how we keep each other. And it expands beyond just the members of this group, because we know how much of a priority that is. So that's where I'm at with this.
Thank you so much, Will. And let me re-emphasize: suicide is serious. I mean, if you're even contemplating it, please talk to somebody. Don't be ashamed to speak up and speak out to somebody. Reach out for some help. It's a big person that needs help and reaches out for help. It's a big person that can do that. Go ahead, Ty.
988 suicide hotline, like 911. 988 is a number you gotta call if you feel on that teeter-totter edge, maybe get close to it, have even thoughts of it. 988. All I want to say.
And she's put one up to 811 or 1-800-273-8255 talk, TALKK. You can also text HOME, HOME, to 741-741. Thank you for this information. Thank you for sharing information, and we'll see if Dee can put that on our page as well, so people will see that, because that's really serious. Like I said, suicide is rough. Death is by itself is rough as well. So People are dealing with all kinds of stuff, loss of jobs and stuff like that. So there's so much that will make a person think that it's not worth living, but it is worth living. Somebody needs you here. Somebody needs you here. Let me go with Mark and Cheech and Dave.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. All good words, starting off with Cheech sharing his what he went through, his personal thing. And then Derek touched on some good points as far as accessibility. And Will definitely did a good job as far as just talking about, the impact and everything else. When I worked in the city, it seemed like there were suicide calls all the time. I didn't even realize how often it happened, especially guys who retired. And, it's a feeling of hopelessness. And like I believe Dee said, it could be one incident. It could be a multiple of incidents that start to build up. And it gives you that feeling of hopelessness. And, who are we to judge where your line in the sand is? But to reach out and to ask for help is the way to go. We all reach a point where we get down and out and we don't know what to do. And but it's only a momentary situation, and if we can get past that night and get to the next day, then there is hope that you can change it, you can adjust, you can do things. And that's where Derek brought in, the accessibility of a weapon sometimes makes it to where they don't take that time to push through. You can also reach out to the clergy, even if you don't belong to a church. You go to any church, and Donald will back me up. You just walk into any church and say, I need help.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't want to go to a doctor, if you don't want to go to a friend, if you don't want to make a phone call, just walk down the block and find a church. Walk in there and grab somebody and say, listen, I need to talk to somebody. This is what I'm going through. I worked in the city. I worked at Hempstead. I've had friends who took their own lives. And Hempstead, it's for a village, it's a big department. For municipalities, it's not a big department, but yet we've had at least two, if not more, that I can just think of off the top of my head that has happened. One was they're all tragic, but one was even worse. So, reach out, like Cheech said. If it's one thing or multiple things and you see, or your family sees, the best thing you can do is start to say, what, let me just make a phone call. Let me just talk to somebody. And like I said, don't forget clergy. Clergy is very important. Even if you don't believe, just go out and reach out and touch them, and they'll help you, and that'll give you enough time to then maybe seek medical if that's what you need. Don't let a momentary problem and pick something that's going to be permanent as a solution.
Well said, Mark. Well said. Who knew we was going in this direction? But that's the direction that we're in. Cheech, Dave, and Jim.
Yeah, I wanted to read the comments real quick. Renee Henderson says, I remember Derek telling me if I ever hear he committed suicide, have it investigated.
Yep. That's my saying. That was I was saying all the time. Don't listen. If you found me dead with a gun beside my head, you got to do an investigation because I didn't do it.
Right.
I didn't do it.
I don't know if anyone here remembers when they were accusing Terrell Owens of trying to commit suicide. I don't know if you remember his exact words. He said, "I love me some me." Yeah, so no, I'm not trying to hurt me. No.
Marcus Diggs says Derek could be a very corrupt department. Donald Coleman said, amen, Reverend. Marcus Diggs says, I'm no professional, but I'm pretty sure we've all gone crazy. Donald Coleman also says there's an old expression, I can tell you what, when, and where, but never why. And he also says why can get you acquitted. And Donald Coleman says, Mark, most churches aren't open now like they used to be. Too many vandalism.
That's true. That's true. That's true, Chief. They're not open like they used to be. You could be. Sometimes you could walk into back in the day. You could walk into a church to be nobody in there, but doors be unlocked.
Yep.
You just go sit. You go sit in the pews.
True. And Mark, you said it best. It's a feeling of hopelessness, but it is momentarily. I can tell you from my experience, before it ever happened to me, I said the same thing. That's selfless, selfish. It's an easy way out. But the thing is that there's something about it, because when it hits you, like I would always say, I have a beautiful family. I have a beautiful wife. I love my kids. But in that moment, you're just like, want the pain to go away, and you see no other way out. It's hard to explain, but it's just something that comes over you. Me, I am blessed that I reached out for help. I am blessed that I believe in God and I have a strong faith. So I never let that bad one on my shoulder overcome the good one on my shoulder, and I have my outlets. I have who I can call and talk to. And just to hear a voice on the other side, calms me down and everything. But it is momentary. But it is a feeling of hopelessness, like Mark said. But please, never be afraid to reach out.
Thank you, Cheech. I got Dave, Jim, and Will.
Done.
Oh, I'm sorry, Mark. Go ahead, Mark. Hold on 1 second, Dave.
Two things. Being raised as a Catholic churches are still open. So it doesn't have to be your denomination. You can go find a Catholic church and then find somebody. Two, on the West Coast, we went over this. Will wasn't with us. But there was another department, if I recall correctly, on the West Coast where there was a lot of suicides. Remember that, Rich?
Yes.
Yeah, so, it does happen. I don't think they found out why. Rich could probably tell us better. But I don't know why, but there was a whole bunch of suicides on that job too. So, it could be a lot of things. We don't really know, and they haven't told us.
All right. Dave, Jim, and Will.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm sorry. One more time. Melba's driving. Let me get it real quick. Go ahead. Sorry, Dave.
I hate to jump in. I think that there is I remember back when I was in high school, and I think one of our classmates had committed suicide or something like that. But the one thing that stuck with me is that anytime there is a suicidal phenomenon, psychologists do warn that it can be contagious, right? Yeah. Because there may be others with those thought patterns, and it makes it somehow easier or more acceptable for them to go through with a suicide attempt once they've seen that someone else has done it.
I believe it. I believe it. I still think that it's because even when I'm listening to what Cheech was saying there, Cheech was thinking about, I ain't saying Cheech himself, I'm just saying when he was saying that stuff, that person is thinking about themselves only. They're not thinking about family. They're not thinking about all that stuff. They're thinking about, I'm going through. I'm dealing with this. I'm suffering. I got the weak. I. What about your family? What about your loved ones?
So to that, Don, I will say that yes, it is selfish as far as they are thinking about the amount of pain that they're in. Mm-hmm. But consider the amount of pain that you have to be in, that it overshadows all of those other factors.
You don't want my next response.
Why?
You don't even want my next response.
Why not?
Because suicide is first of all, it's not natural for one.
No, it is not natural.
No, it's not natural.
It goes against the human condition. It is not natural. No.
Right. It goes against God's commands completely. So that's why I didn't really want to go there. But if your faith is strong, then you will put others above yourself. If your faith is strong. If it's not, you're gonna always be first. If it's not, you're gonna always be first.
We all have periods of weakness that is also part of the human condition.
Weakness does not mean death.
What? Weakness does not mean death.
No.
But I'm just saying that we all have moments where our faith may not be so strong, that we don't all share the same faith, and that part of the human condition is our frailty, is our vulnerability.
That's every person, though, not just one person. That's all of us.
And that's all of us.
Yeah, that's all of us.
So
yeah.
It may not be me, it may not be you, but it could be somebody else in that moment. And so, like, for every suicide or attempted suicide call or thoughts of suicide call that I've been on, my encouraging word is always, if you make it through today and through this moment, you may not feel the same way. But not everyone has that same counsel in their ear, in their moment, in their time of need, when they're most vulnerable, when their faith, whatever it may be at its lowest point.
Mm-hmm. No, that's Mel, what you said was absolutely true. It still didn't change my response.
No, it doesn't. It shouldn't change your response.
No, my response is,
yeah,
I mean, but I agree with you. I agree 100% with what you just said. I just said that that's a person that's thinking only about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a selfish move. Just think about it. Put your loved one, husband, wife, child, in that same position, and they took their life. That means they put themselves before they put the rest of the family. That's what happened. Because this is what they're saying. I can't take no more. I can't live no more. I can't do this anymore. I can't. What about someone helping you? What about reaching out for some help? Which some people are not going to do. Some people are not going to do that.
Some people can't see that. Some people can't see that far, Doc. That's all I'm saying. For the empathetic side, some people can't see around it. And also, yes, what about your family? But not just in the realm of suicide. The whole mindset that a lot of things that we were taught were selfish were things that we absolutely needed for self-care, especially when it comes to family. And removing ourselves from those situations. So I'm saying it's not a one size fits all for everyone. And not everyone has a family that is stability for them.
And sometimes the family is what drives them to it. Well, again, sometimes it's the family that drives them that way. So I understand. I listen. When I say this, I say it because I think I have a understanding of it. My belief will not change because of my faith in what I believe in God. My relationship with God will not allow me to accept suicide as a way out. Now, does my heart hurt? I'm sure God's heart hurts when someone does that, but it doesn't change his views. You know, it doesn't change his views. Of course, he hurts. He hates to see any of us die or suffer, but doesn't change his views. And that's really what I'm saying, that my views will not change on that. I just believe, and this is not, and please, everyone listen, please know that I'm not telling you to think like I think. This is how I think. This is how I tell my family to think as well. Like, listen, don't you be the number one thing. You're not the number one. You have others that love you and care about you. That could hurt them really bad. You know, so that's Donald Butler. And you know, again, I'm not trying to persuade anybody to think any kind of way, but no one will ever convince me any other way. No one. You could talk to you blue in the face. I'll be sitting over there saying, nope. I'll be blue. Listen, Mark, it's like what you said about the white meat. Listen, I hate to throw the lip in there, but listen, when I made up my mind, that's it.
I was going to say, you need to explain that, Don. That sounds...
Sometimes Mark tries to tell me to eat some other meat besides white meat, and I'm like, I only eat white meat. Well, you need to do this, you do that. I only eat white meat. He can talk to, he's blue in the face. I'm not eating dark meat. You know, so.
Passed out trying to tell him. Have a drumstick.
Or try this, or try that. I'd be like, man, I'm not trying none of that. But anyway, that's what's behind that. Derek knows. That guy is so stubborn when it comes down to what he gonna do. That's it. That's it. And I'm pretty much like this. Don't waste your time trying to convince me of something that you like. You know, if you like it, then you enjoy your stuff. Let me enjoy mine. But let me go on to who they had? Dave, Jim, Will, and AC.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. Sorry I was late. I heard about that story, man, and I just want God to be with those families of those officers, man, and the kids and the other loved ones, and even the neighbors, man, because back in the day, real briefly, because we're going on with this thing here. My brother died in '95 at the age of 33. My only sibling, gone. He's my oldest son's godfather. 3 years later, my mother died at 56. She willed herself to death after he died. Few years later after that, 2003, my dad died. He didn't want to be around anymore either because my mom was gone, my brother was gone, and they just went on home to glory. But my union delegates, old timers, man, and a few old school cops, man, white and black, they just kept checking on me for some reason. Now I wasn't going to do anything to myself, but they knew I had 2 sons to raise. So they would just call me at night or come by the house. They even came by before my parents died just to check me because my only sibling, was gone. And they convinced my mother and father after my brother died, Dave is not going to harm himself or anything like that. We think it's a good idea and we get him some outside counseling away from the job. And they sat my mother and father down, and that's the first time I ever seen my father said, yeah, maybe that's a good thing. Because my father was an old school Southern man. No, you'll be all right. You know what I mean? You'll be okay. Yeah, it's fine. But I got that counseling, man. And I knew that I had 2 sons to raise, and I wasn't going to kill myself. But I think it was more like they didn't want me going to work and either killing somebody. So, yeah, somebody would say the wrong thing to me or put hands on me in the street somewhere, and my parents feared that. Yeah, but this here, man, the suicides, we had lots of suicides when we were all on the job in the city. There's 38,000 cops on that job. Every day you read those orders, man, or something happened, right? Every day. And then a couple of cops would get shot to death on duty in the same night. Hoban and what's the other guy's name? Busick. The same night. What, hour or 2 apart? So, I don't know, man. I do think it's selfish too, man. I really do. I think it's selfish, and I think, I don't want to use curse words here because it's a touchy topic. But I just think it's selfish, man. And especially if you have family, man, and friends. My neighbors would be in my house, man. I would come home from work, man, and my neighbors are sitting in my house. Oh, we just check and make sure everything's all right in your house and wait for you to come home, make sure you're okay. I didn't want to go to the Baptist church. I grew up in Second Baptist, Donald, but we had a young pastor at the time in Drinks, and I was not going to confide in none of them because I'm not going to be part of nobody's gossip.
Right.
That's what I was afraid with church. Man, no, I ain't talking to them. They would call me up, but I said, how come you don't come out and give my father communion? So what you mean you worried about me? You ain't worried about my father? And I would find something to argue with them about. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like the old church, man. Them old school deacons came by that house, man. Your mother had pneumonia. You lost a loved one. Man, here they come. Them old deaconesses, here they come. Like an army of them. Okay, we gonna take the kids for the weekend. You and James go do something else. You know what I'm saying? That's the way it was, man. But I don't know. We have that kind of tight knit anymore. We say we do. Some of us do, but man, I just don't know, man. And I ain't never losing my faith in God because that's the closest I ever became to God when I started really getting a relationship with God when my mother, brother, father died right behind each other. I sat down and said a prayer. I said, yo, man, and this is why I talked to him. I said, man, not for nothing, but this load is absolutely too heavy. I need your help.
Dave, man,
you know what I mean,
I hear you loud and clear.
I can't do it by myself, man. Yep. And then people start coming out with cousins. My aunt down here, man, she became like a mother for me. Her brother who passed away, a Vietnam veteran, he was a father to me. You know what I mean? Just checking me at work, call me at work. Hey, how you doing? You good? Yeah. You know, I asked God to get that load off my shoulders, and he did.
I believe you. I believe every word you just said, Dave.
Yeah.
Donald Coleman just said, I'm sorry to jump in there, Cheech, but this was just stuck out to me. It says, and sometimes the family might think, what did they do wrong to make a loved one take their life? You know, so now a family's got to live with that thought for the rest of their life, not knowing why you took your life or why you didn't reach out to them for help. If we're such a family, if we're such close friends, why didn't you? So there's a whole lot that goes on with this, and you know what? We'll talk all day, and we'll have different answers all day long to this whole conversation. Let me go with Jim. He took his hand down, but he put it back up, so you didn't lose your spot, Jim. It's on my piece of paper. So it's Jim, Will, and AC. Oh, Will, Jim, AC, and Mark.
Marcus.
I was just going to say this because we discussed this now for a long time, and there are so many different reasons. And it's so, none of us really know what any particular reason is. You have young people, drug addicted people, you have retired people, old people, people with diseases and incurable. There are so many reasons it happens. I'm not justifying it by the way. I'm just saying that we really can't put our finger on any one thing that could lead to taking your own life. As I mentioned when I first spoke about doing some research on it, it was really because of at the time I did it, there were an enormous amount of retirees committing suicide, police retirees. And at the time, as you heard me say before, isolation was a huge part of that. And you add in alcohol and usually divorce. So you have a divorce, you have alcohol, and now you have a cop that used to have a lot of friends on the job, and now they're sitting all by themselves in their room. And you know how that is when you go back to a department and you're retired, everybody runs for the hills. It's not like you're not in the old boy club anymore. And some of these old retired guys, that loneliness gets to them. And like I said, you add alcohol to the mix. Now they're really not thinking. And as Derek brought out, the gun is right there. So he's got all these factors. And I'm not saying that that's a solution. I'm just saying that there are so many things that go into suicide that we could spend the next week and a half and never really come to any kind of conclusion. other than Cheech saying, get help. And you're not going to get the help. You need somebody to see it and somebody to come to your rescue.
Right.
That's the catch there.
There's no dispute there. Will, AC, and Mark?
Marcus Diggs had a question on the chat. Says,
Go ahead, Chief.
Don't know if you can say that considering pension and insurance, would the family still get survivor benefits?
That depends.
What's the issue? I don't get what the question is.
Basically, if a person commits suicide, do they still get the insurance?
What difference? That has nothing to do with the suicide. They don't think about that. What difference?
Right. No, I don't think he was even asking about that, but he was just pretty much asking, does the family is the family taken care of?
Well, if you're retired and you commit suicide, from what I know, is that has nothing to do with it. Whatever your pension is, it is. If you have the pension that goes to your wife, it'll go to your wife. You know, if you're talking about a personal life insurance policy, well, that's a different story.
Yeah, because most of them have different rules.
Right. Yeah, a state pension, your pension is your pension. I don't care. There's nothing suicide in your pension.
No, I agree with you on the pension part, Jim, because even if you go to jail, it's still your pension, right?
Right. But I mean, if you have a life insurance policy, that's what he's thinking about. Well,
he said both. He said pension and insurance. So he mentioned them both.
Yeah, life insurance may, but as I was saying, somebody that's ready to commit suicide is not thinking about their life insurance.
Not at all. Not at all. But this is an interesting conversation for me. I'm telling you right now because, you know, I think about it one way, and to hear you guys speak, you know, it's good. It's good to hear that because I ain't gonna get into all my stuff right now. Will, AC, and Mark.
I'll go ahead and defer. As you said, we've been on this conversation for quite some time, and I know AC hasn't had a chance to comment, so I'll defer. Let's move on to AC.
Let me hit. Oh, AC, you driving, right?
Yeah. Well, I parked. I pulled over.
Go ahead, AC, then Mark.
Okay. I want to speak about something slightly different. More so like younger people in the law enforcement or first responders. They learn in the academy about getting help from, you know, different people when you need help, and sometimes, like you said, we don't know so we need help ourselves. Excuse me. But more importantly, encourage young officers, young people who are doing this type of work. Make sure you be yourself. And, you know, what they got to do with suicide? When you're acting like a different person than you are when you're working, you find yourself lonely when you get home. All those stress that happen at work applies to you differently. Make sure you're the same person. Prime example. I don't know. I met Derek a couple years before I became a cop, but Derek has always been Derek everywhere he goes. I don't care what he do, he's going to be Derek. Don't bring your personality to the job. Don't make the job change you, who you are, and that allow you to be a better you, and, you know, be able to get through these tough times. Because all police officers, law enforcement, even the ones who don't work outside, will have tough times at work because of work. So make sure you become yourself and stay yourself. Don't become that police officer or law enforcement person, because that will change when you retire. That changes when you go home. You will always be you if you maintain your own personality, your own persona.
Thank you, AC. I appreciate that. Really appreciate you saying that too. And Jim says that too. Well said, AC. Mark and Ty.
Yeah. So this is how I feel about it. It really doesn't matter whether you feel you would ever choose suicide or not. It doesn't work that way. It works as something traumatic happens in your life, whether it's a series or one incident or whatever, and then it affects you at that moment. And you may make a bad decision, but there before the grace of God go we. Okay, we don't know and hopefully we won't come into that situation, but it can happen. And it doesn't make you less of a person that you think of it. But what you need to do is reach out. Okay, so because like I said before, that's only a momentary crisis that you're going through. Okay, so stop, reach out, get the help, and there'll be a better day. Okay, don't feel that you're weak or you're making a bad decision or, so many judgments. Don't worry about the judgments. Worry about the outcome. And the outcome is get the help so you can deal with whatever this crisis is and have the next day come to you. That's it.
Well, that's great advice, Mark. Really is. I mean,
Donald Coleman has a question for you.
For me? Okay.
What about suicide performed by legal ways? A lady in New Jersey just had this done.
Well, listen, you're actually looking at a person who don't even believe in capital punishment. So you're probably asking the wrong person that question, because even though capital punishment is legal, I don't believe everything legal is even right. So I'm not really the right person to ask that question, because I don't believe in legal death, killing someone legally. Even though we have the right to, as law enforcement, to protect a life, I lean on that way. But as far as a punishment, I don't believe in it as a punishment or as a way out of something. So when you look at Romans, I think Romans the 13th chapter, the 14th chapter, it speaks about law enforcement. If you read it in different languages, it actually uses the word police. Were given that sword. They were not given that sword in vain, meaning that they were given it for protection and that God ordained that to be. So so that's how I look at certain stuff. But I hate to get biblical on you guys in this conversation, because we're probably gonna have a little separation at that point. I'm gonna tell you right now, there's gonna be some separation, because there's certain stuff that I've heard you guys even discuss that I didn't even put my 2 cents in, because I didn't want to mess with y'all. But there's a lot of stuff I just don't agree with it. I just don't agree with it. And instead of going back and forth with my friends, in this atmosphere, I don't do it. But don't catch me in another atmosphere, because then I'll tell you exactly where I'm coming from. But in this atmosphere, I don't do that on purpose, intentionally. I don't do that. Kyle, was that a finger that you raised your hand, or you just like, well, you scolded me?
You didn't flip the bird, did you, Kyle?
Okay, AC said it's 4:15, so we really need to keep moving. We can talk about this all day, but let me get the last two on this part. Don't put your hand down, Will. Let me get Ty and Will, and then we'll move. D, we'll move. Get us going.
I just want to say real quick that AC touched on a very, very important point. Identity of who you are, self-identity, Derek said earlier, self-esteem, self-worth is very important in being a police officer. Mm-hmm. I remember, it's just really quick. I came to work, I was 4 to 12. I came in at noon to relieve somebody. I want to go up at 8 o'clock. I walked in a suit and tie, and the officer, I won't say his name, but they called the Penguin, doobie-doobie-doo. He looked at me and said, what were you, a defender or something today? You got a suit and tie. I'm coming to be a police officer. You got to take off the clothes to put on your uniform. Why do you wear a suit and tie? I looked at him and said, listen, man, this job is not who I am. This job is not my life. This job is incidental to my life. So I'm leaving here at 8 o'clock. I got somewhere to go, unlike you guys. So AC is so important. From that point on, he never bothered me again, because the entire locker room started laughing at him. So you better leave Tyrone alone. It's pretty funny. I said, he said, you better leave that man alone. He said, this job is not his life. It's incidental to his life. And that's so important to understand that, guys. I go, that's it.
Will, quick. Let's go, Will. Be quick, Will.
Will do.
I'm messing with you.
No, it's cool. I can tell you this subject and this issue, I'm conflicted on both sides with regards to whether or not it's selfish or whether or not there's another option. I mean, whether or not they feel like there's nothing else and they're getting a release. But I'll utilize this. We got some gym rats in here, and any of us ever been on the bench press and had too much weight that we couldn't handle? Can you relate?
Got some help. Got a
Well,
spotter.
exactly. Emotional trauma does not work that way. It compounds, and it just, you don't just get rid of it. With counseling and everything, you find coping mechanisms and whatnot. But if that's not something that is instilled in you early, trying to pick it up later is very, very difficult. And I know, Pastor, that you mentioned about from the spiritual perspective, I'd like to offer this. If you think about from a biblical perspective and you can identify the story of Job, probably has an individual that has had more trauma on him than anyone. And then I think it was Dave that said that he prayed and God delivered him and took that weight off of him. We cannot dismiss or be remiss by not speaking on the spirituality component, because at the end of the day, when everything else may fail you and you feel like it fails you, you've got to have that spiritual connection. And I say spirituality is supposed to be specific to anything because I want to be respectful of what everyone's belief is. But have something that you can stay rooted in beyond yourself and beyond individuals. And count on that and look for those times that you've been brought out of, and know that it's going to come back around and you'll get brought out of this too. So soapbox.
And you're right. And Dave looked to the Lord for help. He asked for help. And Job's wife told him, "Oh, you're going to keep on believing this God? You need to curse God and die." And Job said, "You sound like a foolish woman." With all that Job was going through, he said, "You sound like a foolish woman." And, it's God who giveth and God who taketh away. And Job stayed with that. So there was like you said, spirituality component to that. Rich, I think you missed the message. We were like, when we go to the next subject, we're gonna move. Oh, there it is. There it is. Go. You on mute.
Yeah, I just had one quick thing. I've been waiting for, I wasn't going to say anything because everybody's gone 2-3 times and we've really talked about this at length. But I just had the one thing I just wanted to get in. When I was a kid, I was a TV kid, so I watched MASH Unit. I used to watch MASH all the time, and the theme song, "The Suicide is Painless." And as a child, I didn't understand what that song was really about. It's kind of a silly song. But, in retrospect, when you have war and you see death, the suicide isn't painless. It just ends what's happening there, and it's wrong. So it's not painless. It does hurt. So that song was kind of the song that stayed in my mind, because a lot of my law enforcement, the majority of deaths that I saw were suicides. We had the Coronado Bridge, and I pulled so many bodies out of the water, different circumstances. Some left notes. Whenever we saw a car mid-span on the bridge, that means somebody jumped if the person was still there, 9 times out of 10. So the majority of the deaths that I've dealt with was a lot of them were suicides, shooting themselves in their cars in the waterfront. People go to the water to kind of like ease their mind to a degree. When they decide to do something, it's by the water, on land, on the bridge. So I think overall, I've heard all the stories, I've read some of the notes, and I just look down on people doing that as a way out. Some people get to the edge and they feel like, oh, I just can't go on. You can go on. You can go forward. Like you said earlier, it's a momentary thing. Some reasons it was like people just felt like, I can't live the life that I'm living now anymore. Like people that caught AIDS, they would jump off the bridge, or people would be more despondent during holidays when they couldn't be with their families. And overall, it wasn't us as a people. I'm just saying Black people of color weren't doing that. You know what I mean? I've only had one person in my 27 years that was Black that committed suicide. So, because
I think as a people, we've dealt with strife, we've dealt with being down and out, and we've always kind of come back, turned the other cheek, picked ourselves up, you know, and we've done that a lot because we've had things happen to us that were so critical. It's people that aren't used to failure or loss that find that as a way out. But I'm saying, people listening, don't do it. The suicide isn't painless. It hurts. It hurts your loved ones. It hurts people that aren't even connected to you. You don't even realize. And because you do it, sometimes people want to go and do it because they know you did it. Don't follow that path. That's my only message. That's it.
All right. All right. Listen, there's such a serious conversation, and I really don't want anyone to even think that any one of us are taking it lightly. We have our opinions on why, and the bottom line is, who has the right answer? We all think we have the right answer. That's the bottom line. We all think we have the right answer. And you know, listen, I'm not going to sit up here and hammer this because there's people dealing with that. But I will say this. You know, I've watched Mark deal with death in his family. I mean, I've watched them deal with I've watched him deal with death, and I watched him, and I never saw signs where Mark was Mark had to tell me something different, but I never saw signs when Mark felt like it was the end of the world. He's gonna take his life away. He kept moving. He kept pursuing. He kept moving on. I remember when Mark's brother passed away. I remember when his father passed away. I remember when his mother passed away. I remember those things. Matter of fact, I think I did 2 of the funerals. You know, I remember them, but I kept my eye on Mark also, because I know what death does to a family. You know, now he's dealing with mom, brothers. You know, I mean, that's family. Father. Hey, you know, it's rough. But how do you deal with rough times and rough situations? Because all of us have rough times and rough situations. D, get us into a video before I take a text out and give you a subject and then go into a sermon.
Suggestion right now would be do our safety tips with Cheech, and then if we have time after that, we'll do a Crockett pocket.
Okay.
All right, and just the last 3 comments on the thread. Karen said, Yiddish proverb, God gives us burdens and he also gives us shoulders. Donald Coleman says, Dave just wants to preach one day, Rev. Marcus says, appreciate your take, Will. Rev, I believe the first breath and the last are both blessings, but I don't want to live forever. Just saying, in no rush for that last blessing.
I'm with you 100%, Marcus. I'm with you 100% there. The songwriter says, everybody wants to go to heaven, but nobody really wants to die.
So we have a new segment that we want to start. We want to give you a weekly safety tip. Today, we're going to talk briefly about QR codes. I'm sure a lot of you are seeing those more and more everywhere you go, restaurants, out and about. They'll be on pamphlets. Normally, you might encounter a QR code to pay for parking or to browse a menu at a restaurant or learn from a flyer. You may receive a text or an email with a QR code to address an issue with an account. You might also receive a letter in the mail that offers a QR code to access discounts, offer loan forgiveness, or request a payment. What you should know is, while QR codes from trusted sources like a business official website or reputable magazine articles are generally safe, not all QR codes are. Criminals can easily create a fake QR code and place them in public venues or areas, leading you to be spoofed, to go to sites where you are prompted to share personal information, including login credentials and forms of payments. Since QR codes are displayed on your phone, serves as admission to live events, criminals will also sell you fake sport or concert tickets. What you should do before scanning a QR code in public, make sure it doesn't appear tampered with, whether a sticker has been placed on top of the original code, or you can detect other sorts of manipulation on that QR code. Also, before clicking on the web address the QR code is associated with, preview and carefully inspect it, looking for any misspellings, a switched letter, or shortened version of the web address. Those web addresses can be very tricky, and they'll throw one letter off, and it's not the official web address for the site that you're trying to go to. So make sure you look at that very closely. Avoid scanning QR codes from unexpected messages, especially if they pressure you to act quickly. Be especially wary of QR codes that come via an email or a text, since the point of a QR code is to link you to a website when you're not otherwise online. If you're unsure if something is legitimate, contact the company directly using a verified phone number or website. And also protect your phone and accounts by keeping your device's operating system up to date and using strong passwords and multi-factor authentication when available, like the face scan or a code that you have to put in, and change your passwords every couple of months. Don't use the same passwords across the board. So that is our safety tip for this week. I hope you enjoy it and take it into account. Thank you.
Sheesh, let me say this. You just taught me some stuff today. I mean, I'm listening to you. I'm over there like, wow, hold up, man. And my wife has always been like, when we go to a restaurant, she doesn't like to mess with those QR codes. And I just say, you're just panicking over everything. You know, I'm like, you're just so nervous. You're like, you're nervous about it, but it makes sense now. It really does it really makes sense. And I didn't really know that was going on with that. I didn't. So
knowledge gives you power over scams.
Yeah, well, thank you for that information. Thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you guys for sharing with us today. I hope we said something that helps. Donald Coleman says, me as a senior citizen get all kinds of stuff in the mail and phone calls. Just got one while on with you all in the life of a senior. So he's saying that, they always come. I get them too. I got one today about pay this, like you said, like today's your last day to pay this for Easy Pass. Man, my Easy Pass account is up to date. I'm like, so I'm to the point now that I'm just gonna have to get a late notice if I forget, because you're gonna have to send me some mail and a late notice. I'm gonna do it that way because I don't trust none of it. I'm telling you now, I don't trust none of that stuff. Listen, first, I'm too tight with my money for one, and there ain't no way I'm just gonna give it to you just like that. So I'm gonna tell you that right now. That's how I'm just too tight. I'm counting everything, so I'm not giving you my money like that. Anyone else with anything before we take off? Thank you guys for definitely joining us. Kyle, good to see you. At least you and Melba got the two ladies up in here, and Jerry. We're gonna keep Jerry in our prayers, and CJ as well. Thank you guys for joining us. Rich, how's your wife, Rich?
She's good, thank you. Appreciate the prayers.
Okay, because I didn't read it, but someone mentioned it earlier that you might not be here because you was with your wife, and so I just want to make sure that Isabel is all right. So
she's okay. So thank you.
Okay. AC, your wife all right? Okay. All right. Listen, thank you guys for joining us. Anybody with anything before we go? All right, thank you all. Listen, thank you all so much. Let us pray. Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining us. You guys have been faithful to us. Marcus, you and I have been we were on the same page today, Marcus. We're gonna have to hang out today. Come on, Marcus and I on the same page here, boy. Let me read Marcus' last comment. They say you have to die to go to heaven, but Earth is already in space. That's I don't care what y'all say. That's my man right there. That's my man right there. Let us pray. God our Father, we thank you again for allowing us to come together. We thank you for this family, our family, a police family, law enforcement family, family members that just love one another and care about each other. We pray to God, not only for those on this panel, but those who are on Facebook Live. We thank you for their input. We thank you for them joining in our conversation when they can. We thank you for all things. Now, God, we pray for those who are thinking about suicide, praying for families that have lost loved ones due to suicide. We pray to God that even our conversation today would not be taken lightly, but that we also have empathy. We also have compassion. We also love those who have gone and even think in that direction. We ask, dear God, that you would intervene, that you would help, and that you would lift them up and guide them to the right way of going. We thank you now for all things. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.